All right, today we have Alex Bay from Happy Tales Veterinary Clinic. So Dr. Bay is going to tell us a little bit about being a veterinarian and just what she does every day. So thank you for talking with our high schoolers.
Sure.
We appreciate it. So just tell us just a little bit, what does a typical day look like at the veterinary clinic?
So a typical morning for me is kind of concentrated in surgery. So oftentimes I will be doing a lot of routine procedures. So spaying and neutering dogs and cats. I also do a lot of dental work on dogs and cats. And of course there are some days it's not so routine, it's a little bit more emergent. So cystotomies, removing bladder stones, foreign body removals from dogs and cats that eat indiscriminate objects that kind of block their gastrointestinal tract. Recently had an emergency C-section on a pregnant female dog. Let's see, and of course we have things like hit by car animals or attacked by other animals where we're closing lacerations or removing eyes, or even sometimes in severe situations amputating limbs. And then after that, my day is usually just appointments. So wellness visits for dogs and cats that we see annually. So vaccine appointments, making sure everything's functioning normally. And then the sick appointments, which a lot of people just kind of think of when they think about vets, just making sick animals well again.
Right. So a busy day.
Very busy day, very diverse.
Yes. So did you always know you wanted to be a veterinarian, or
Just like most kids, I definitely always want to be a vet. I mean, I've always had a passion for animals, and so my answer is kind of very cliche and normal, but I love animals. I knew I had to work with them at some point in my life in some way, and being able to help them and help their families and things like that was what was most important to me, so that's why I chose this career.
What would you say to students about the schooling and background that they'll have to go through if they choose this career path?
It is extensive, so it's very similar to a human medical doctor. I like people to understand that. So it's 4 years of an undergraduate degree at a college, and then 4 years of veterinary school. And that's just to be a basic general practitioner. You're interested in specializing in something, again, similar to human medicine, you're going to be doing internships, residencies for an additional several years on top of the 8 that you go to school for. But I do think it's also important to spend time in a vet clinic if you're at all interested in potentially pursuing this career. It is very different than what a lot of people think it is, and I think it's important that before you spend the time and the money to go through all of that process, you make sure it is something that you want to do. So get in vet clinics, shadow, even work there in the summertime, things like that. You really get exposure and a lot of hands-on experience that will make or break your decision as to if it's something you want to do.
Right, because it's a huge commitment and
certainly
a lot of time and money.
Sure.
So definitely. What would you tell students would be the most challenging thing, or one of the most challenging things about your day?
So there's a lot of challenging aspects to it, and I think a lot of vets and vet techs and general population would tell you that euthanasia is probably the most difficult part. And while helping owners make that decision is very difficult, and the actual act of euthanizing someone's family member is very difficult and challenging. There's a lot of other aspects to it that you don't so much think about if you're not really kind of immersed in it. So you're not always going to be right. So there is a lot of weight and pressure on your shoulders as the vet in a practice. You're the one making decisions. You kind of have the highest responsibility, and you have to make sure you're making the right decisions for every pet that comes through there. And to be completely honest, people are what makes this the hardest part of the job. So a lot of people get into vet medicine because they want to deal with animals and they don't want to deal with people. And I always tell everyone that they had to get there some way, and you have to consult with the owner. And people don't always view animals the way that I view animals, and so they don't ever really want to spend the money on their pets. And so that makes our job a little bit difficult when they come in with a problem and they want us to fix it, but they don't really want to spend the money for everything. So you have to become, you have to figure out a puzzle to, what diagnostics are most important to me to spend money on to find out what's wrong with this animal, and then also have money and time to treat it appropriately. So people do make this job very difficult, but people also can make this job very wonderful.
I would think that this career would also be very, very rewarding.
Certainly it is. So simply making somebody's pet well again is extremely gratifying, but the process to getting there is also very satisfying. So you have to determine what's wrong with the animal, diagnose it appropriately in order to institute the appropriate treatment to get it well. So all of those steps that you take to get to the end goal of a healthy animal can be very rewarding. But several other things, finding somebody that wants to follow in your footsteps, kind of showing them what the job is, and if they are really interested because of what you've shown them, that's rewarding. But simple things like that emergency C-section that I told you about that we did the other day. She had been in labor for 2 days. Really not a very good prognosis for her or her puppy. So emergency C-section, didn't really expect to save any. And in there finishing her surgery, and I'm hearing puppies crying outside, that means that they are alive and well and that we've done our job.
Right.
And so moments like that, kind of want to keep going.
Absolutely. So what would you tell students about just life advice, or maybe advice if they want to pursue this type of career?
Sure. So like I said, get your hands dirty, go to a vet clinic. We're always welcoming people to kind of help, especially in the summer. We seem to be slammed at that point in time. Any vet around here would be that way. So you can, again, immerse yourself in it, see what is involved, what it entails, the roller coaster of emotions that the people that work in a vet clinic experience, but simply animal experience too. So I think it's great to go to the animal shelter and volunteer. You have to be really in tune with animals in order to be successful at your job as a veterinarian. And if, the more you kind of surround yourself with different personalities and breeds and types and backgrounds of animals, you really learn, how do I handle this situation? How do I approach this dog or cat for that matter? But kind of aside from vet medicine altogether in this career, just don't worry if you don't know what you want to do. Because I was very fortunate to know what I wanted to do, but I have just so many friends that had no clue what they wanted to do when they went to college, and they determined it once they got to college or even after college, and they're very happy and they're very successful. So don't worry if you don't have an idea what you want to do right now. And I don't know if this is applicable or not, so you can cut it out if you want to, but stay off of social media. I think that that's a really toxic place to be, and I hate to see kids so enthralled with what they see on there, because it's very fake. I don't know, it's just a lifestyle that maybe not everybody can achieve what they see on social media. And I think that living, a very, what people would call a normal life, can be very successful and very gratifying if you just, pursue something that is needed in your area. I don't know if that really makes sense, but
so somebody else mentioned that for their advice. They mentioned something about, don't worry about social media, worry about what you're doing.
Exactly, yeah. And the time is going to go by, and I would like people to be able to look back at the time and know that they spent time doing things with their friends and their family, and they didn't have their nose buried in their phone. It's just something that I see a lot of now, and it's just sad.
Yeah. Well, tell us one last crazy question. What's the most different animal you've treated besides a cat and a dog? What's the most exotic type animal you've done?
I've worked on a snake before with the help of a colleague. Excuse me, it's not something that I do regularly, but I was very interested in helping with this case, and so I got to work on a snake. I've worked on a goose. I do work on horses and goats, which those aren't very non-mainstream, but they're a little bit different. They pepper in some, diversity. I think that is when we have people call about tarantulas and guinea pigs and ferrets and all of that. I really don't know very much about it, but so I would say a snake is probably kind of the most unique thing that I personally have worked on.
Yeah, I would have trouble with that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing the information with our students. We appreciate you so much, Dr. Alex Bay from Happy Tales Veterinary Clinic.